process. You know, here in DC, we have taxation without representation at the sort of high end of the government. That's wrong, and I hope we can change that. But we also have, I think, a silver lining in the Home Rule Act. You know, we're very lucky to have the Advisory Neighborhood Commission. It's the most granular level of local government. It brings people closer to the government. It brings the government closer to the people. So the way to do that as a commissioner, in my view, is to make sure that I have the pulse of the people. And that's what I intend to do as commissioner. I love walking the neighborhood, knocking on doors during my campaign. It's been a real treat getting to know more of my neighbors. And I'll tell you what I tell all my neighbors, which is that I'm not going away once the campaign is over. To the contrary, you'll continue to see me as I seek out the views of the community. I'm a husband and a father. I have 2 kids at Lafayette. I'm a lawyer, and I have an enthusiasm for public service. I'm grateful for the opportunity tonight. Thank you to the Chevy Chase Community Association. I look forward to the discussion, and I'm confident that I can earn your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Karrenthya, you have 1 minute. Give us your opening statement.
Hi, I'm Karrenthya. I'm originally from Detroit. I moved to Washington, D.C. in 2010 after working in the automotive industry and going through the financial crisis. When I moved here in 2010, I've lived in wards 1, 3, 4, and 5. So I've lived a little bit over DC. I went to Michigan State University. I have a degree in accounting and information technology. I also received my MBA from Loyola with the focus in strategic management. I have a small business, a tax preparation company. I have a 5-year-old son that's at Lafayette, and I'm currently the co-treasurer for Lafayette's Home and School Association. I work for the federal government, where I'm a public servant, where I'm responsible for our audit, risk, and compliance work at my agency. And I am a volunteer with the Junior League of Washington, where I co-chair Iona Services, and I've worked with the Regency House on Connecticut, delivering groceries with them.
Thank you. Now each candidate is going to get 3 minutes to answer each question, and then we're going to have 90 seconds for a rebuttal if they so choose.
Okay.
Jory,
I'll start with Mark. Mark, why are you running to be an ANC commissioner?
Thank you, Jory. Well, the short answer is I love our community. My wife and I sought out this neighborhood over 7 years ago for its obvious appeal. Not only do we not regret it, but we appreciate the neighborhood more and more every day and getting to know more of our neighbors every day. As I mentioned before, I believe in the process. I believe in good government. Long ago, I worked for Joe Biden in the Senate. My first job in DC after college was in 1997 as Joe Biden's deputy press secretary for 3 years. I'm an attorney now of 18 years and a litigator and a negotiator. So I know politics, I know government, I know negotiation, and that's a lot of the bread and butter of this role. But most important, of course, this role is about the people. It's about all of you. It's about the voters. People who know me, I think, and if I've met you, I like to think I'm an approachable person. I'm a good listener. I want to listen to the community. I want to be your advocate and help make us an influential ANC. I've always believed in government as a force for good, and I still do. So when I see something in the neighborhood that warrants action, I try not to feel despondent or helpless. To the contrary, I know that government intends to work for the people and wants to be responsive. I've seen in my time here in the neighborhood, ANC commissioners be very responsive to my own requests and concerns, and I hope to follow in that mold and provide constituent service and be a voice for the community.
You have actually 1 minute and 16 seconds left. You want to say anything more, or?
I'll leave it at that. You know, those who know me again, I am a talker, and I usually have no problem filling time. But I'm sure as the discussion goes on, if I have anything further to add, I will, you know, weave it in, as they say.
Okay. Okay. Karrenthya, why don't you go ahead and answer the question?
So I'm running for ANC. When I realized Zach would no longer be on the ANC, I thought the ANC might need a new treasurer. I'm an accountant. I'm the treasurer of the HSA. But no, seriously, I am running for the ANC because giving back to the community is one of my core values. I've chosen Chevy Chase as the community in which I'm going to raise my son. I'm also one of the co-chairs for the Racial and Social Equity Committee of the ANC 3-4G body. Again, I mentioned that I work with Iona Services, which is in Ward 3. I previously used to deliver groceries at Regency House located on Connecticut Avenue. And so I wanted to take my commitment to my community a little further. I wanted to go further beyond Lafayette. I wanted to go further than the ANC. And I thought that, I will I will run to be a commissioner for the ANC. I also live in one of the apartments on Connecticut Avenue, and in attending many, many, many ANC meetings, I realized that there usually lack the representation of people in apartments. Sometimes we're forgotten, or we're not represented, or we don't matter because we're not paying property taxes, but we're paying we're paying taxes just like every other resident in the district. So I want to make sure that we have thoughtful representation of people living in apartments. I also want to be a fresh voice for the neighborhood. I want to represent new residents and younger families who move into the neighborhood. And I also want to represent those who have been in the neighborhood for many, many years. So my goal in running for ANC is to be a fresh voice for all, helping to show different perspectives of everyone's thoughts and voices. So that was my main reason in running for the ANC. I want to, my core value is community service, and I just want to continue that commitment through the ANC.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You each have 90 seconds if you'd like to respond to anything you heard or add on to what you had to say. You don't have to take it if you don't. You're all set.
Okay.
Mark?
No, that's all right. Karrenthya and I have talked several times during the campaign, and it's good to see her and to hear a little bit more about her as well. So I'm happy we're having this discussion.
Okay, great. Well, then we'll move on to the second question. Where do you stand on the issue of building housing in general, including affordable housing on the Chevy Chase Commons? And this time we'll start with Karrenthya.
Okay, so I just want to point out that this initial question had mentioned that this is a national issue of affordable housing, and that was left off the second time. So I just want to, make sure everyone knows that affordable housing is a national issue. It's just not a Washington, D.C. issue. It's just not an inner city issue. It is a national issue. So I think back in September, the Wall Street Journal had published an article that the United States is on a trend of surpassing the previous homelessness goal. So housing is an issue. For me, I support affordable housing at the Commons. I previously lived in public housing. I had previously worked for a federal agency that supported affordable housing. So I think it would be very hypocritical for me not to support programs that have helped myself, as well as I've seen these programs help others in more rural areas, such out in Montana, South Dakota, and North Dakota. So I support it. With housing on the site, I think we have an opportunity for more foot traffic. And with more foot traffic, we have more engagement for our small businesses along the Connecticut Avenue. We also have an opportunity for, our streets to be safe. The more people we have on the streets, the more safer our streets will be with more people out and about. Also, I think, being a leader is taking opportunities to solve problems which people may not I guess, people who may not be interested in taking the tough issues. I think Chevy Chase is a really great opportunity to show Washington, D.C., also to show our Ward 3 partners that we can be leaders in helping the mayor achieve her goal of affordable housing, especially in Ward 3, where we are lacking. I think we only have, when I looked at DemPed's site, I think we only had about 500 or so affordable units. So I think this is an opportunity to show the city that we support this crisis that's in our city, that support this crisis that's in our country. So I stand in supporting affordable housing at the Chevy Chase Commons.
Thank you. Mark?
Thanks. Well, this is probably the top issue for a lot of people, one of the most hot button issues, if you will. So let me start off by telling you what I see here and certain basic principles that will color how I analyze the issue. First of all, our stretch of Connecticut Avenue is in need of some upgrades. I had a neighbor tell me that the Connecticut Avenue corridor is a piece of you-know-what. That goes certainly farther than I would go in describing it, but I think it somewhat captures the sentiment of a good chunk of the community that believes, look, we have, a vacant lot where the diner used to be, Blue 44 just closed. The community center and the library are obviously due for the upgrades that are coming, thankfully, but the corridor is aging and in need of an upgrade. Second, I would point out, we should acknowledge that there is a housing shortage here in DC. And given my first point, this seems like a opportunity for a win-win. If a revitalized Connecticut Avenue corridor can include some additional housing. How and where that housing happens and is placed remains to be seen. And as to housing specifically, I want to be clear that I view it as my role as commissioner to reflect your views and not to impose my own views. So I'm not going to make any specific pledges about how I would vote on any given resolution. I intend to provide input in resolutions and see the responses to the RFP proposals based on what the community feedback is. Having said that, I'm not personally without any opinion. I think my vision for the corridor is one, as mentioned in general, that adds some housing. In a way, it's a shame that the Common seems to be going first. And if some of the other sites had been developed first, maybe we wouldn't feel the tension we feel at the Commons site. I believe that my view comports with the view of the community based on the people I've talked to, which is to say, in general, cognizant of the need for some redevelopment, some modest, appropriate development, and the need for some additional housing. I'll also point out the RFP calls for housing, and I think we should expect that the plans will have housing. But I think we should just be careful and strategic about how we play our hand as a commission and not let the bigger, more divisive issues get in the way of making sure that we can influence the process as much as possible.
All right. Thank you. Karrenthya, you have 3 minutes for the question.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
You have 3 minutes to answer the same question.
I went first.
Oh, sorry. Oh, gosh, sorry. Wow. Great. All right, you have 90 seconds if you want to respond.
Yeah, so I think my only question is for Mark, because it seems he didn't get a definitive answer that if you know that housing is a national issue, why would you not support it at the Commons? And I think, and I understand that it's not a vote, or I'm just trying to understand why you wouldn't support it, given that there is an issue and an opportunity to solve the issue.
Well, I'm not saying that I wouldn't support it. I think I can answer your question by reiterating what I said at the top, which is that I think having the ANC process is, something we're really lucky to have, this granular level of self-government. And I view it as my role to reflect the views of the community. So what I want to do is keep an open mind and not prejudge it. I'm not against it. And in fact, I said that we do have a housing shortage here in DC. So I'm focused on the local issue. I think that housing on the Connecticut Avenue corridor in general is appropriate, and we should expect to have it. You know, I also am sensitive to those who have said that we don't want to see the corridor become the next Bethesda. The vast majority of the people I speak to have said that. So my view is to keep an open mind and to make sure that as we get these responses to the RFP in, that we, you know, work with them and understand them and work with our voters and our constituents to make sure that the work of the commission reflects their views.
Mark, I'm going to cut you off. Do you have a question for Karrenthya on this same issue?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, moving on. Question number 3. Sorry.
Okay. Somewhat related, if the development on the library community center site proceeds, how will you ensure that the needs of the community will be met? I think Mark goes first this time.
Okay, thanks, Jory. Well, I'd like to start off here by pointing out what an opportunity we have. A strong public library and community center is a treasure. And I'm glad our city recognizes that, implicit in their desire to renovate it. They're prepared to provide a massive upgrade to the facilities at a great cost, a great investment. So my view on the Commons site is simple. Let's make it awesome. You know, I want to bring some enthusiasm to the process. You know, I'm happy to get into the weeds as necessary when we get to it, but I don't want to overlook the opportunity to hold the developers accountable for delivering an awesome public site, one that has new features, new facilities that we and our kids are going to be excited to come and visit. So that's the first thing I think about when I think about a redeveloped Commons site. You know, to more directly answer the question, how do we make sure the community needs are met? Well, as I mentioned before, I want to solicit the views of the people. I want to see robust feedback from the community. The ANC has talked about investing in some software that would allow us to do that more easily for polling the voters. Commissioner Sherman talked about making sure that the responses to the RFP are available online for people to see and comment on. I think that's a great idea. So, you know, what I don't want to do is, you know, have resolutions on the table and debating resolutions that get, you know, overly bogged down in what we think the city is going to do. But I want to stay closer to and hew closer to what I think the mission of the commission is, which is to convey what we hear, including, by the way, you know, minority views on the issue. And by that, I mean, there was a discussion in the prior session. I think Commissioner Gosselin pointed out, look, if you have 50 or 60% of people who say they're for this or against that, and 40 who are on the other side, those 40 need to be heard as well. So that's how I approach it. You know, I don't want to brush under the rug any segment of the sentiment of the community, but I think there are ways that we can work as a commission to make sure all those views are reflected.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karrenthya?
Okay. So I agree with Mark that the development of the library and community center, if it proceeds, it is a really great opportunity for our community as well as the residents of Washington, D.C. I think it's important that when we have an opportunity to talk about what we would like to see in the development, that people actually come out and tell the city what they would like to see. As I previously mentioned, I lived in Ward 5, and prior to me having my son, we got a new Edgewood Community Rec Center. It was a small building, small like the one in Chevy Chase, at Chevy Chase Park, tiny building. However, if you go there today, the city delivered. And when I tell you they delivered a really great area where the community can gather, we have a wonderful facility. And when I say we, I live in DC. I go there. It's my facility as well as those in Ward 5. So we go there, we go to the splash park. It's a wonderful splash park. It's a wonderful park. The facilities, it has a gym. At the time, I stopped my gym membership. So it was an opportunity for me to go to the gym and not have to pay for a gym membership. So I think that we have a really great opportunity to see what we want to see. I want to encourage residents to come out and talk about it, how I ensure that the community needs are met. I've really enjoyed canvassing and door knocking and talking to a lot of people, especially seeing so many seniors in single member District 5. So this is an opportunity for me to continue that canvassing and talking with neighbors at Starbucks, getting their input on things that they would like to see, talking with young families at Lafayette Park, or at the school or at Broad Branch, getting their input and encouraging people to come out and talk about what they would like to see. I think this is an opportunity to shoot for the moon, but we're going to land on the stars. So I'm going to say everything. I'm going to say, I want to see rock climbing. I want to see a track, but it's an opportunity to see what the city can deliver. And I know a lot of people have, negative feelings about the city, but I have seen, just look at our libraries. Me and my son traveled to all the libraries across the city. Riggs Park got a new library. Southwest got a new library. We go to all the new facilities that the city has. So I encourage people to explore our city, explore the new facilities that we have, and tell the city what you want. We may not get everything, but we can at least have an opportunity to have modern buildings where we can have senior gatherings, where the children can gather when it's raining outside and not have to go to Virginia and pay $20 to go to Scramble. We can just go to our neighborhood facilities or another facility. So that's how I'm going to ensure community needs are met, is encourage the community to come out and talk, because I can't make sure the needs are met if you don't come out and participate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rebuttal from anybody? Have any responses?
I'll just add, not in the nature of a rebuttal necessarily, but another piece of it for me is being willing and open to work with the other commissioners. I think that's a critical part of the job. I think in looking at some of the resolutions that the commission considered this past term, there seemed to be a need and an opening for some simplification in the messaging that comes through. There was one resolution, I think, late last year that was something like 18 pages long. So I think to leverage the community's voice, we would do well to, try to streamline the way we approach this and just think carefully about, what our messaging is so that we can maximize our influence as a commission, which would be one of my goals.
Karrenthya?
Nothing to add. My internet might be a little unstable right now.
Okay. We're going to be moving on to question number 4. What specific initiatives do you propose to improve public safety?
I think I'll start with this one, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So traditionally, when I think about public safety, I'm thinking about crime, natural disasters, and any conditions that may adversely affect the public. So when I think about public safety initiatives or issues in our current single member district, I think I would continue to leverage the relationships that Commissioner Gorin Nash already have established with the Metropolitan Police Department as well as DDOT. And the reason why I want to continue with those initiatives is because I think they've done a great job. I've seen how Commissioner Gore has reached out to MPD and talked about the speeding that happens on Western, the thefts, and then I've seen the police come out. They've been staking out on Connecticut Avenue. And then one day I was driving on Western, I saw a speed camera, and I think one of the police lieutenants had actually came to an ANC, mentioned how he was staking out on Western. He caught a couple of people speeding by, wrote tickets, and then the speed camera came up. I think that has been a really great initiative already, and I think that that is one that I would like to continue. When we talk about public safety, I live off Connecticut Avenue. I have personally almost been hit by cars maybe at least 10 times. I have also been in an accident on Connecticut Avenue crossing because cars are speeding and didn't see me crossing while all traffic has stopped. So I think I would like to continue those initiatives from Commissioner Gore and Commissioner Nash that they've already started and established. I don't think that you don't have to continue. You can just continue things that have already been going. But one of the things that I noticed when I was knocking doors, that there are a lot of seniors living at home by themselves. I would like to create some type of community network in which we work with our seniors who may not come to ANC meetings, who may not get out of their homes, just to make sure that these people are safe, making sure that they're staying safe. We're checking on our neighbors so that we don't have a senior who's been living in his home, who's 80 years old and doesn't have anyone to help them. So that may be a new initiative that I think that I would like to add as it relates to public safety, is creating some type of community network to check on those who are older adults or maybe people with disabilities, just to make sure that they're staying safe inside their home.
Thank you. Mark?
Well, I echo Karrenthya's points, and in particular, I'm glad she mentioned Chair Gore, because listening to the prior hour of debate, I was really impressed by her statement about the importance of relationships with MPD. It was very impressive, and you can see how her commitment there is having a positive effect on the community, and really can be reflected in the work of the commission. So I would hope to follow her lead in that regard. In terms of my own ideas, I have one that is a pet peeve of mine, which I'm going to turn into a pet project of mine as commissioner, should the voters elect me, and that is the stop signs in the neighborhood. Too many of them, once you get off of Connecticut Avenue, are obstructed by trees, and it drives me nuts. And I've seen, including work vans and other service providers who don't live in the neighborhood but are driving through the neighborhood. They don't know the way we know. It's second nature to me. I know this is a stop sign, and this one I have the right of way, and then the next one's a stop, and the next one I go through. They don't understand that rhythm, and when they don't see the stop sign, I've seen big 2-ton vans come to a screeching halt 10 feet beyond a stop sign because they didn't see it because it's obstructed by a tree. I'm all for the tree canopy. The tree canopy is good. I like trees, but I don't think they have any business 5 feet in front of a stop sign. So that's something I want to talk to the relevant city agencies about, and to find a way where we can flag those situations, get the trees trimmed, potentially removed, again, without sacrificing the tree canopy in any meaningful way. But safety has to come first. And the second issue that I want to focus on is better policing. Karrenthya mentioned the presence of some police looking for speeders. I would echo that in the neighborhoods where a lot of children are playing, potentially on and certainly near the streets. I see people blowing through stop signs just about every day like they're not even there, and I've never seen anyone get pulled over. And again, it's not right, and we ought to address it, and I intend to.
Great, thank you. Karrenthya, do you have anything to add?
No.
Mark, do you have anything to add?
So, sorry, back to me.
Yeah, do you have anything to add that you didn't get in your
I guess,
3
yeah, I
minutes?
guess we're in the sort of bonus rebuttal
Yeah,
time. Well, just one thing, which is the traffic calming measures, like the speed humps. Commissioner Sherman referenced those in the prior session. I'm in favor of those insofar as the residents on those affected blocks are calling for it. I think they can be affected, and I intend to listen to the community and expand those where appropriate.
great, thank you. And now we're going to be moving on to our final question.
Okay. The last question is, greater density creates many issues, one of which is not enough school capacity. What is your opinion on alleviating this problem? Is this Mark's turn? Mhm.
Yes.
Sure, I'll go first. Well,
Okay.
I agree that it may very well be a problem. I think the extent of the problem will depend in large part on what the upgrade of the Connecticut Avenue corridor looks like and the amount of density that we add. But I certainly welcome the question because it gets to a core issue and one where I think the commission can have a lot of influence. Simply put, we want to make sure that the left hand knows what the right hand is doing. We shouldn't be, adding density without thought to how we're going to accommodate all the additional services that are necessary. And I think we can do it. We can do both. I actually raised this issue 4 years ago with my commissioner and Commissioner Zeldin, I think it was. This was even before discussion about, the commons and redevelopment, but just the question at Lafayette about overcrowding when there were discussions about putting pre-K4 and potentially having to cut pre-K4. And eventually we settled on the military road school solution, which was certainly better than nothing. But I pointed out then that I found it a little bit disappointing that we had just gone through this once in a generation renovation and upgrade of Lafayette School. And if you talk to the principal, she was already saying, well, we're running out of room. So clearly more needs to be done. I also thought that there was a missed opportunity when we had the development of the new rec center building next to the tennis courts there at Lafayette Pointer Park. There's a certain economy of scale. Once you get the architects involved and once you get the bulldozers out there and shovels in the ground, that you can potentially make a project bigger. We could have added maybe some classrooms there, maybe added a pre-K3. I have a son in pre-K3. I'm grateful that he's at a DCPS pre-K3, even though I have to drive 15 minutes over to Spring Valley. So I believe in the promise of universal pre-K. I hope we can, keep that as a target and tack toward it. We need to hold the city accountable for making sure that the development we conduct in the community responds to kind of a 360 view of all the community's needs.
Great. Karrenthya?
Mm-hmm. So in regards to this question, I think this question is a little bit flawed. I would have to disagree that greater density, especially here in Chevy Chase, probably would not create overcrowding in our schools. Let's just think about these past 5 years. There's been no extra density created. However, our schools have increase of the student population. So when I'm going to go back to when I was knocking doors in single member District 5. As I was knocking, there were a lot of older adults living alone in their homes. So when we think about the evolution as people, as demographics change, the older adults are going to leave their homes. and what's going to come in our neighborhood are more families. When we think about these potential apartments at the library and community center site, this is an opportunity for those older adults to move into affordable housing because they want to downsize. But more than likely, 4 and 5 persons families are not going to be moving into these apartments. So I'm not an expert in this area, and I mentioned before that I have an MBA in strategic management. So I can think strategically, but I can't think about every single thing that can solve this problem. But strategically thinking, I think the ANC should work more with DCPS, the Deputy Mayor of Education, and the council members from wards 3 and 4, and parents, because we've had an opportunity with boundary studies. That was an opportunity there to fix our crowding. We have an opportunity to make sure that the quality of education across DC represents what's in Ward 3. So then, as our demographics change, everyone isn't running to come to Lafayette. They're willing to stay where they are because DC has quality education across the city. Next, we need to also think about opportunities of maybe moving pre-K3 and pre-K4 elsewhere. Military Road is an opportunity. I remember I was freshly into the neighborhood, was a little bit worried about pre-K3 leaving Lafayette, and then the city decided to have pre-K3 and 4 at Military Road. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. We need to find more opportunities to maybe move pre-K3 and 4, but also parents have to be willing to work with the solutions, because at the time, parents didn't want to drive across the park to take their kids to pre-K3 and 4. So everyone has to be willing to do their part to make change. We can't say, I don't want the boundaries to change. I don't want to take my kid across the park. So again, strategically thinking, all these stakeholders need to work together to come up with opportunities. Otherwise, no matter if we do or don't have density, we're going to continue to have overcrowding.
Thank you for that answer.
Thank you. Mhm.
Mark, would you like to respond?
Sure. I'm not against change. Change is inevitable. And, my view for the commission will be, as I said before, with respect to the other issues, to take the pulse of the people. There may be sacrifices, there may be pluses and minuses, there may be compromises along the way, but I think the first step is understanding what the community wants. When it comes to, look, this is largely a hypothetical issue at the moment, but when it comes to pre-K at Lafayette, my strong sense of the community's belief is that we ought to have pre-K4, and if we can, pre-K3 at Lafayette. It's immensely easier for people to have it right where the other kids are at school, and for a lot of families in the neighborhood who work a lot and have 2 parents working or all parents working, I think we should shoot for that first and foremost. But in any event, I believe that the commission can and should, take a cross-disciplinary approach to it, which is to, as Karrenthya alluded to, involve DCPS, but also talk to all of the other relevant agencies about how each of their different moves is going to affect the other.
Karrenthya, you want to respond?
Nothing to add.
Okay, we're in the final portion of our evening. We're going to give each of the candidates 2 minutes in a closing statement. Which of you would like to go first?
Doesn't
I'm going
matter
to
to me.
defer to Mark. I took the last question, I think.
Okay, let's go, Mark.
Okay. Well, public service is in my bones. I strongly believe in the ANC process, as I mentioned, because it's a people-centered process. It's the most granular form of government, and we're lucky to have it. I said it before, and I'll say it again. Constituent service is going to be key for me. There's a lot of hot button issues, but the daily work of being responsive to our neighbors' needs will be a major focus for me every single day. And on those bigger issues, I promise to listen. I'm open, I'm persuadable. My focus is on the voters to understand their views so that those can be reflected in the work of the commission. Thank you again to the Chevy Chase Community Association. If anyone has questions for me, please reach out. My website is markrooney.anc.com, and you can get in touch with me there. I'm asking for your vote, and I won't let you down. Thank you.
Mark. Karrenthya?
Okay, as I've previously mentioned throughout this call, I am very excited and eager to bring a fresh perspective and a voice for all in our neighborhood. You know, I had an opportunity to get a little bit of taste of being an ANC commissioner during my canvassing. I met a neighbor who was complaining about him having lead pipes and all his neighbors around him did not have lead pipes. And he was very upset. You know, I put myself into gear. I reached out to the councilman's office. I reached out to the current commissioners and saying, hey, this neighbor has this issue. How can I help them? I provided him the contact to DC Water. Councilman Fruman's office continuously was reaching out to him. He wasn't responding. I went back by his house and said, hey, did you get my emails? Did I have the emails correct? Are you okay? You know, they're responding. And he said, oh, I got the emails. I've been out of town. I really enjoyed doing that work. Like I said, community service and is one of my core values. And that just really, you know, made me happy to know that I can help this resident. I'm looking forward to the potential opportunity to be your ANC commissioner. I hope that you all will vote for me on November 5th. If you would like to have any more further discussions with me, I'm having a meet and greet on October 26th at Broad Branch from 10 to noon. Please come out, interact with me, get to know me more. And I love talking with people. I know at first glance, I may not seem approachable, but I really am approachable at the core. It's like peeling the layer of the onion. I'll get you crying. So thank you. I really enjoyed this opportunity today.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you both.
Thank you both.
And thank you for the
Very much.
audience for
Thank you.
being here and really enjoyed this substantive conversation. I think we got a good sense of where each of the candidates stands and what their values are. So we are going to stop recording now.